my goodness. Hi, everybody. We're back. Welcome to the Fundamentalists. My name is Elliott Morgan. Pete, how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
I have news for you.
Oh, what is it?
I've been chomping at the bit.
You didn't tell me when you came in. That was great. You just wow, okay.
Yeah. The moon is an alien spaceship.
Is it?
Yeah.
Shit. Does everybody know this, or is it?
No.
Is it?
No. A lot of people don't know. Well, there's some powers that be that are keeping it top secret.
Yeah.
But I can prove to you.
Are we going to get assassinated? Is this going to even get out?
Well, I think at this point, if they were going to assassinate us, oh, you mean the government? Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Okay, so tell me, tell me more. I'm nervous.
I will tell you more. Okay, first of all, ancient texts say that the moon came into our orbit about 11 to 13,000 years ago. Okay, and it was basically a spaceship that had come from Andromeda, I believe, from a planet that was destroyed back in the day. Now, there's a few reasons that we know this as a fact. One is astral projection / remote viewing, which is used as a psychic spying. The government funded it as well. The CIA did in fact, fund a remote viewing program that was recently made even more public. Second, Pete, get this. Of all of the moons in our solar system, ours is the only one that has a stationary orbit. We only ever have seen 40% of the moon's surface. What's going on behind it? Oh. Another thing, why is it that the craters, the small craters, they have a depth that is proportionate to small craters, but the big craters are just as shallow, if not even convex. It's almost as if...
Yeah, why would that be? Because if a big asteroid hit, it would go deeper, wouldn't it?
You would think. Yeah. Unless it's just a spaceship. Unless it's made to look like it has asteroids, but really it's just like a screen. Now, there's another idea here that also, why is it, Pete, that the moon perfectly covers the sun during eclipses? It perfectly covers it. Yeah. No other natural satellite in our solar system has that from the vantage point of the planet's surface. Yet for some reason we do. Isn't that strange?
That is a bit strange. Why would they do that?
I don't like when you start asking all these questions.
Yeah.
It's not my job to prove this to you. I'm just informing you. No, I just fell down a wormhole on that. I have this really bad habit that is where I'll click on someone's Reddit profile and see the comments that they made since it's all public. Sometimes I find absolute gold, and the sheer certitude of these people is remarkable, and the eloquence, the so just matter of fact, like this is what. Oh, anyway.
Yeah. Well, so that's what I like. Yeah, I mean, any form of like psychotic, but the certainty is phenomenal. The absolute certainty, whether it's aliens or chemtrails or anything like that. Yeah, very good.
Wonderful stuff. So anyway. Folks, welcome to the Fundamentalists. We are having a nice gin and tonic right now because we're getting into the spirit and because we do it pretty much every time anyway.
Yeah.
And this is a particular fun holiday-themed episode. We're going to be diving into Santa. We're going to be talking about Santa Claus.
By the way, before we get into that, I wanted to ask you: have you got into Christmas yet? Have you got a Christmas tree going? Because you're a big Christmas guy.
Actually, no.
Oh, wow.
I did, however, put decals on my windows because birds were flying into them and killing themselves, kamikaze piloting into them, and lost one of them, and so I got some wintry-looking decals that are up right now. But that's more of a protecting the birds.
But are you going to do? Are you going to do Christmas?
Yeah, Grace goes out of town, I think, on Tuesday, and I'm going to try to decorate and even put lights up on the house and get that, because I've never done that before. But I want to wait till she's gone, because if she's there, I'll embarrass myself, and if she's not there, then I'm less likely to get embarrassed at my inability to... I don't like ladders.
I don't like ladders, fun fact. The way I see it is if you need a ladder, too high, but I'll make an exception for the birds.
I don't know if you know this about me or not.
I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, I don't like them. I don't trust them. I don't get them. They don't make sense to me. The moon as a spaceship makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm going to do it then and try to get out the Christmas tree. But get some stockings going. It's going to be great.
Because Elliott is, you're a Christmassy guy.
I'm a Christmas fan.
Guy. I'm not so much of a Christmassy guy.
Were you going to do anything?
I bought a chocolate advent calendar.
Yeah.
So there you go. But
don't you normally have your gin vent calendar too?
Yeah, I didn't do it this year. Maybe I'll have to. Maybe I'll try and get that. It's probably too late. But
Yeah.
so in light of Christmas, then Santa Claus.
Yes.
Fill us in.
It's 'tis the season. I am a Santa fan, and so I thought it would be a fun episode that is lighthearted and nice, and we can dive into the mythology of Santa Claus, where he comes from, what he did, what made him into who he is now. You might know some of it, you might not know a lot of it, and then we're going to talk about other things like advertising, other things like belief and that kind of thing.
I want to jump into
So,
belief in Santa anyway, so we'll start with the mythology, because you
go.
did a little bit of a deep dive.
a little bit.
So you can fill me in, because I don't know that much. I
was
know
gonna ask.
bits and pieces, where he comes from. And
Where do you think he comes from?
so it's St. Nicholas, isn't that
Saint
right?
Nicholas,
and he was a saint who gave presents at Christmas.
Yeah.
Was it in Sweden or Norway?
Close, yeah, Norway.
Norway, yeah. And what century? 12th
Something like
century?
that,
Something
yeah,
like that,
around
yeah. So that's, I know it comes from that, and I know that our current kind of Santa Claus look is connected with, obviously, our great Coca-Cola.
Yes.
And that's pretty much, and I also know, Christmas was like a pagan holiday that was then Christianized and all those kind of things. So those are the basics I know, but
You're right
fill in
around
the
there.
details. Okay.
So here's the deal. Here is who Santa is based on. Santa is based on a pagan god in the Norse mythology and Germanic mythology named Odin. Are you familiar with Odin?
If I'm familiar with Odin, yeah.
Yes,
One of the big
he's
ones.
also definitely one of the big ones. A badass.
Yeah.
He's associated with wisdom, healing, death, royalty, the gallows, knowledge, war. All of them were war, pretty much. Battle, victory, sorcery, poetry, frenzy, and the runic alphabet. Now, it's also Woden and Wotan, which is a little plug. Jung has a very interesting essay on Wotan. Have you read that?
Well, he has.
Jung.
Oh no, I haven't.
C.G. Jung. He talks about Wotan in the context of Germany in World War II. That's really interesting in case anybody is looking for stuff to read. That's a little bit meatier. So anyway, basically, my understanding is that Santa Claus is based off of Odin. So too is Gandalf, by the way. So there's this image of Odin as this old guy. When the gods would come to Earth to mingle with the humans, when they would come down to our level, they would often disguise themselves as human so as not to scare everybody. And so the images of Odin in his guise as this wanderer, he has a big white beard, and Odin would give presents and things to the kids who would leave out boots. They would leave out boots by their hearth, and Odin, after the season of killing at the end of the winter, he would drop things off. Now, the problem is that because Odin is a pagan god, pagan gods had typically moral ambiguity about them. They were not all good and they were not all bad, and that moral ambiguity often did not fit in well with the sort of ever increasingly popularized Christian religion, which was making its way into Norway and Germany around that time. And so therefore, like you're saying, they know how to take, the Christians needed to take certain elements of the pagan, these pagan beliefs, to incorporate it into Christianity, because while they did not have a polytheistic religion, Christianity does have saints and demons and that kind of thing. So what they did is they split Odin. They said, all right, half of Odin is going to be this benevolent, very kind, gift-giving person who gives good children gifts around Christmas time. Do you know who the other half became?
No.
Krampus.
Oh, that's right, yes. I don't know much about Krampus, but I know he's celebrated or feared in some European countries.
Very feared, very scary. He eats children. All the evil stuff, it's right over the plate for this. The Christian sort of MO was to just take the good and put that here and the bad go there. And I went to Halloween Horror Nights a couple years ago, and they had a Krampus there. And it is still in my brain, and it's stuck there for quite a while. But anyway, after they did this split, everyone was happy. They got their Odin. It became Santa. Saint Nicholas became Saint Nicholas, and then Krampus has another name that also has Nick in it, Nick for nickel, and there was the saint, and that way he was a saint, and now he was the good part. And then there was Krampus, that was the demon, and that was the bad part. And so then you end up evolving over the years, and Santa, up until the 1930s, with Coca-Cola, was this very slender, Gandalf-y kind of guy. He also rode on a horse. The original Odin had an 8-legged horse that he rode around on, and we have 8 reindeer. There are some folks who have said that Rudolph the red-nosed reindeer was meant to symbolize the blood that was on the horse's mouth when he would eat his kill, just like a savagery kind of deal. And so the stockings are there. The reindeer, you can see the link there. And then Coca-Cola comes along one day, and they say, we're going to reinvent Santa Claus and turn him into this jolly, laughing, big old guy. And since then, we have then inherited this image of Santa Claus that we get when the movies like The Santa Claus and all that stuff, which is one of my favorites. And yeah, so that's where you get Santa Claus.
Wow. Very good.
Isn't that fun?
I feel like this is a history channel. I just learnt lots of stuff.
Isn't that nice?
You know, funnily enough, so I'm very into myths, the idea of myths, and I was on YouTube, for anybody who wants it, there's actually 2 hours of lectures from Claude Lévi-Strauss.
Yes,
on
you
myth
love
and medium.
Lévi-Strauss when it comes to the myth stuff. Yes,
that's very good. So, but this is like 5 of his seminars from the 1970s that you can get on YouTube. Very impressive. But he explores how myths always kind of have these binaries, and then these mixing of binaries, good and evil, light and dark, raw and cooked, fast and slow, active, passive. So it's interesting you're talking about in this myth, you've got these 2 sides, and so it's interesting that myths all over the world, wherever you go, you find these. They start off with, there's these opposites, and then you generally get trickster figures that are the attempt to bring the opposites together. Yeah, so that seems to be going on in the myth of Christmas.
That's all right up my alley. I love all that shit.
Yeah.
Crap. It's a Santa episode, Elliott. Okay, so here's a couple more fun things. Just so we're clear. In the Norse creation myth, Odin killed his own great-grandfather. And he then created the world out of the corpse of his great-grandfather. He created the mountains out of his great-grandfather's bones. He created the oceans out of his blood, and he created the heavens out of his head, his skull. Isn't that fun?
Nice, lovely.
And then we came along, we turned him into Santa Claus.
Yeah.
And Gandalf.
Yep, very good, very good.
Now, do you believe in Santa Claus now?
Yes, I do.
This is I like this conversation because you get into the idea of something being literally true and something being mythologically true. And what I love about the Santa Claus myth is that it still exists in both the literal way and in this sort of metaphorical, fun way that we all kind of participate in every year. Well, most of us do, maybe not you.
Yeah, and the thing about belief, you said, I believe in Santa Claus. This is a thing I wanted to jump into a little bit, is how belief functions and how belief in superstition functions. Because today, most people don't think of themselves as superstitious, right? Most enlightened people kind of don't believe in this kind of stuff. But, the work of Zizek is very good on this. I'll probably reference him a few times, but talks about how we often don't directly believe in something, but we believe through another. So a lot of people don't believe in Santa Claus, but they do through their children. So they believe their children believe, maybe the children don't. A lot of children just pretend to believe because they see how much joy it brings to their parents. But you get the enjoyment of the belief in Santa Claus from the naive supposed belief of your children.
I believed in him. I literally believed in him.
Yeah, but I wonder whether it's also because the advertising world kind of believes for you, so that all of these shops and the music, it's kind of like, you don't have to, well, you probably do directly believe, but you don't have to directly believe. Yeah. But one day you won't, but you'll still indirectly believe through
and that will
the
be
other.
painful.
Yeah. That's why, parents, it's often more painful for them when the kid stops believing, because although it's the kid has stopped believing, because their belief is in the child, whenever the child stops believing, Christmas loses its magic.
Yeah,
for
the
them.
magic goes away. Yeah.
So this is going to be called deferred belief. And so in the parallax view, Zizek uses a great example from Niels Bohr, who had a house that had a horseshoe over the front door. You might know this story. And the horseshoe in Europe it's a symbol of good luck. You hang a horseshoe and good fortune will come. And so one of Niels Bohr's friends said, why have you got a horseshoe above your door? Like, do you think it's going to somehow bring you good luck? And Bohr laughs and says, of course I don't believe it works. And then his friend said, well, why do you have it? And Bohr said, well, I've heard it works even if you don't believe in it. Right?
Nice, yeah,
so
yeah.
that's the
nice.
structure of ideology today, is that you'll meet people who say, go to get their palm read. And if you ask them, well, do you believe in palm reading? They'll say, no, not really. You go, but why are you going? And it's actually because they do believe through the other.
Yeah.
Like, oh, even though I don't believe it works, I've heard it works, even if you don't believe it. And so weirdly, people can continue to have superstitious beliefs in all sorts of things without directly believing in it themselves.
Yeah, I also think that's like you're speaking from the perspective of the parent, right? Like the person, but even from the perspective of the child who has to go through that sort of painful initiation into a non-magical reality with the realization that there's not a literal Santa Claus who comes to your home every day.
Yeah.
You then have to, the little metaphor of, which I think many people go through, especially with religious beliefs and any kind of belief, you go through it and you go through this life cycle of literalism into the, deadness, into that, oh, none of it's, this doesn't mean anything. And you get those people that are so anti whatever they used to believe, they feel so duped and they get all angry and they get on Twitter and they yell at people. And then there's another stage where you can go into sort of a more mythical, a more imaginative way of recapturing what was there in the beginning.
So that is true. The way I'm describing it, but is I think it's an avoidance of that. So I think the way that some of us continue to believe in superstition is actually by putting the belief into the other. So this by the way is the psychoanalytic critique of standard atheism, because in standard atheism they try to show that God doesn't exist in the factual world. Whereas in psychoanalysis, the idea is that it's not that you have to show that God doesn't exist. God has to realize that God doesn't exist. So it's like,
Oh, they love their phrases.
Yeah, I know. And it's like advertising. You were mentioning, it's like, I might not believe that all these products are magical, but as long as the advertisers believe, somehow I act as if they are magical through the advertiser's belief.
Yeah.
So in one sense, the advertisers have to stop believing in order for the belief to impact me. By the way, that's Hegel's understanding of Christianity. Is in other religions you stop believing in God, but in Christianity God stops believing in God. So there's a...
You mean like with the crucifixion?
Yeah, with the kind of like...
Why have you forsaken me?
Yeah, where God... it's not that you feel forsaken by God, is that you believe in God, and then God is forsaken by God, and then that frees you from the belief. So for Zizek, the idea is that people say they don't believe in things, but continue to believe because the belief is displaced onto some other location and is safe there.
And isn't it interesting that everyone has this sort of like no, like you were saying, no one wants to admit that they're superstitious.
Yeah.
No one would go, I literally believe in Santa Claus.
Yeah.
So you have kids and you look at kids and you look at kids' joyful faces. By the way, there is this idea with Santa Claus specifically that there is a knowledge in children of Santa's dark mythological past, and it is evidenced by them screaming at him when they see him for the first time, which I just think is very funny. What was I saying? Something about...
Oh, yeah, people don't want to admit that they're superstitious.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
Why not just be like, we're in a brain loop of constantly being like, oh, okay, I can't believe in anything superstitious. Superstition is wrong. Superstition is wrong. You can't believe in anything superstitious. That's irrational and it's dumb and you can't... It's best just to stick to what you know, stick to what you can... quantify. And that's just a funny situation to be in.
Although, see, but this is where we're opposite. And you're probably going like, oh, people should believe in superstition.
Why not?
I'm going like, no.
No.
People are still too superstitious. We still live in a superstitious world.
You're saying it's still there. It's
yeah.
just, yeah.
So I want to break out of it. But so that's good. You kind of want to, but both of us are saying the same thing, which is potentially one should admit that we're a lot less, rational than we think.
Yeah.
So again, the obvious examples are, somebody they don't believe in hell, but they're scared they're going to go there. So you get a lot of people who maybe used to be religious, They don't believe in hell, but they're still scared of it. They don't believe in God, but they're still scared of it. They don't believe in ghosts, but they're still terrified of ghosts.
Yeah.
You know, they don't believe there's something under the bed, but they still won't put their foot down in the middle of the night. So there's this weird thing in which
Well,
the
Goose
beliefs
sometimes
continue.
sleeps next to me on the
Yes,
on the
and he
floor,
will
so that I
go for
can't
you.
put the
Yeah.
that is a monster under the bed if ever there was. So look out, because I've done it once before and it's been a bad situation. Yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I had another thought too about this. So I saw earlier this viral tweet that people were making fun of, and I think for good reason. It was very funny. The jokes making fun of it were very funny, but it was a tweet from this person who, God bless him, I don't know, some person that went viral. It was a picture of a 7-Eleven from 1973 or something like that, right? And it shows this idyllic convenience store like exchange happening, right? And it's everything's clean, all the customers smile. It's an advertisement,
Yeah.
right? And the tweet is like, yeah, a 7-Eleven in 1973. This is the image. I'll see if I can send this so we can put it on screen for the video version.
Very good.
Isn't that nice?
Yes,
yeah,
very
just
nice,
a straight up promo shot, right?
Yeah.
A 7-Eleven in 1973. We used to be a country, a proper country. So I think there's a few very interesting things happening with this. One is that it's clearly an advertisement. And so there's all these people just making fun of them, just throwing out advertisements, being like, oh, we used to be a country, and it's just an advertisement for a potato. But this is, I think, what happened with Santa Claus, where Coca-Cola came along, and in order to sell Cokes, they created this very jolly, very nice Santa, and it gave people with enough time the illusion that that was what Santa has always looked like and what Santa has always been. And it like gives you this false sense that there was a utopia in the past. And there's people who look at these advertisements nowadays and they go, we've lost it. We've fallen by the wayside. But they're duped. You're duped by the advertising, and we all are. Like, I mean, I do it with Christmas is just me indulging in advertising.
Yeah, yeah.
And
No,
decorating
absolutely.
with advertising. Just being like, oh, old Coca-Cola, we're going to put this up. And it's like I like it.
Yeah, yeah.
But this is going incredibly viral. And it's like people are, I think, privy to the fact that, advertising plays a major role in this and it's controlling us on a big, big level.
Yeah, no, 100%. And it reminds me, so this is another weird thing about belief and about ideals. Shizak again, and I think it's in the Parallax View, uses a joke from a movie where this guy goes into a coffee shop and says, could I have coffee without milk? The waiter says, well, we don't have any milk. Can I give you coffee without cream? Right? And Shizak said, this is very insightful because coffee without milk and coffee without cream, they sound like they're different, or they sound like they're the same, but they're actually different, right? And what he means by that is, in psychoanalysis, if you have two people who empirically are the same, same things have happened to them, but we imagine that one of them has this fixation on a relationship that they could have had. So they imagine this other life they could have had. And this other person is fixated on something they could have achieved but didn't achieve. Mm-hmm. So they're fixated on something counterfactual, something that hasn't happened.
Just a fantasy.
It's just fantasy. But that fantasy directly impinges their actual life. So one is coffee without cream and one is coffee without milk. But the counterfactual world that they're imagining is incredibly significant in terms of its effect on their lives, even though it doesn't exist. It's a fantasy, an ideal, a utopia that they're imagining that is not real, doesn't exist, but it makes them depressed in this life with the choices they've made. And what you can do is you can say that they, in this counterfactual world, believe in utopia, in the promise of advertising, the promise of wholeness and completeness, and they believe in God. God doesn't exist in their actual world, but they believe kind of weirdly God exists in this possible world that they haven't had. And again, in psychoanalysis, part of the idea is to say, not just that your life now is a bit shit, but your life in that possible world would have been a bit shit as well.
Yeah,
Yes, so that
that
fantasy
7-Eleven wouldn't
didn't
look
exist.
like that.
It doesn't exist, and it doesn't
Yeah.
exist in an alternative world. Your fantasy, utopic fantasy, is itself already divided. Again, that's the analytic critique of standard atheism. It's like, it's not that you have to believe that the world is kind of divided or there's no wholeness in this one. You actually have to believe it in the counterfactual world as well. You have to
Yeah.
realize it's just a fiction.
Have you seen A Christmas Story?
Which one's that?
Ralphie, I'm gonna shoot your eye out, or you're gonna shoot your eye out. The lamp, you know, that you ever seen a lamp that's a big leg around Christmas time?
Oh yes, oh yeah, I've seen the leg lamp.
Yeah,
is that
so that's
from
from
that movie?
The Christmas Story, yeah.
all right, okay.
But I think that movie does an excellent job of it. It perfectly captures that nostalgic feel, but it's incredibly dark and incredibly just like the dad is just angry and pissed off the entire time, and he does end up shooting his eye out, and he, you know, and that doesn't quite shoot his eye, but it's
Breaks the nostalgia.
Santa
open,
is a
basically, yeah.
sweaty, gross guy, and he's wanting, you know, I want this gun or whatever, and then the Santa just takes his foot and pushes him down the slide to get him off of the. It's a great example of, I think, a perfect balance of a Christmas movie that's not so saccharine.
Yes, that's very true. I have to watch that. Because a friend, I think I've used this example before, but a friend of mine got a divorce, and he was very unhappy in his relationship. But when he got the divorce, for about 6 months, he was so upset and wanting it back, and he weirdly was nostalgic about the relationship, even though he knew that it wasn't a good relationship and that he was not happy. He couldn't help but suddenly paint it with this nostalgia.
Oh, it's
that
so
made
crazy.
it,
Isn't that crazy? That's nuts.
yeah. And so what happened is one had to kind of go back and kind of like show that alternative world he was imagining, you know, where they stay together and it was amazing, that world was fractured and broken as
Yeah.
well. And when he was able to realize that, he was able to be happier in his actual world, because his counterfactual world was as shit as his actual world. But the irony is, in realizing that the counterfactual world is just
When you
as
say
broken.
counterfactual, do you mean the one where he's imagining they were all happy?
Yes, happy, and
yeah.
then went on into the future happy. So counterfactual, like, didn't happen.
Yeah.
It's a possible world.
Counter to the facts.
Yeah, counter to the facts, absolutely. So that possible world is a fiction, and that actually helps him. So the problem with a lot of these movies and a lot of advertising is they give us this counterfactual world of utopia, which is all very nice, but it actually makes us more miserable. It empirically makes us. It's hard for us to even see this, of how much pressure there is on families to make the perfect Christmas, or looking at these movies and seeing the perfect couple who are happy, or like how much depression it creates in people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much it actually affects us that we just take.
Yeah, and it's not that we believe it, because we don't believe it. We believe it through the advertisers. So, of course, I don't believe there's a perfect Christmas and that commodity satisfaction will fix everything or whatever. Of course, I don't believe that, but I still believe it through the belief of the movies that Hallmark make, that I watch. My belief is held passively in the Hallmark movie.
But if it was up to you, would you just do away with it, though? Because I like the kind of cultural breaks, the holiday times.
Yes.
Where you get to have you get to drink and you be merry and pretend that you're having a good time. It's like positive thinking.
Yeah.
It works.
Yes.
For a time.
For a time. Yeah, well, I've got nothing against, you know, chilling out for a while and doing things.
I know that about you.
Yeah. Yeah, you know that about me. But I would say that the Hegelian notion of Christianity, which is that it's not that you stop believing in God, it's that God stops believing in God, and that then brings you to the next level, is similar. Is like, it's not that I stop believing in the magic of Christmas. We need more movies where you're drawn in and then auto deconstruct Christmas from within. Now, not all of them, but I think that's and I'm sure there are films that do it, like the movie you mentioned there, that
got
kind
some
of
subtle, yeah.
And
it's still a Christmas movie. It's
still a Christmas
jolly
movie,
and fun, yeah.
but it also cracks something. Like, what are those movies? Chevy Chase.
Yeah.
Those movies are
excellent example.
They're excellent. Like, they're kind of like, because they're all about
National
the
Lampoon's
nostalgia.
Christmas Vacation.
Yeah, that's right. I haven't watched it for 20 years probably, but
so good. It
that's
holds
so
up.
good. I'm sure is it dated good now? Is it still
No,
funny? Oh,
it's,
gosh,
well, I
alright.
mean, it's dated in that it's the same way anything's dated, but it is still very,
very funny.
very, very funny.
Oh, good. Yeah, no, I mean, sometimes I've watched comedies that I used to really find funny, but just things have changed. And like laugh tracks, they used to use laugh tracks all the time. Now I can't watch a comedy with a laugh track.
No, it
you
takes
know?
But
Yeah, no, but from what I remember of the movie, it's like they're trying to kind of have the perfect Christmas, even the whole thing of the lights but yet the comedy is, of course, is always being pierced.
Yep.
Like the Christmas is, so that for me gives you the best of both worlds. There's something about that I think is more powerful than the Hallmark movie. The Hallmark movie, I think, makes people depressed. You know, that will provide a type of counterfactual, kind of superstitious world of wholeness and oneness and completeness that then just makes you more miserable in your own life.
well, maybe, but the people that are watching those movies, I mean, the bar is pretty low for how miserable you're probably going to be if you're like truly consuming those movies non-ironically.
Yeah,
I mean, you're not in a good place.
I know. And that's the sad thing.
So
I
maybe
think,
you
yeah.
need that kind of fantasy of like, okay, there's some kind of
But I see that's like I think this is why
And
they're
you think that Barry
they're
the Worst
pure
Man is
ideology because
But-
you're right but it's the same as alcohol. Like getting drunk, if you're poor and have a terrible relationship, getting drunk helps in the short
Solves the
term.
problem.
Yeah, yeah, there you go, solves the problem.
solution.
Yeah, so let's move on. Yeah, but in the long run, it prevents you actually working to fix your life. So in the same way, I think Hallmark movies, if you're very depressed and unemployed and life is shit, it's not that your life's going to get better if you see through the illusion, but to see through the illusion at least allows you to see the horror of your position, which might allow you to do something. So I do see Hallmark movies as a type of way of keeping people passive by selling them a dream, like the lottery ticket. Instead of like you buy a lottery ticket, you fantasize about being rich.
It's the game.
And it makes you feel good, but it ultimately is a type of ideological lie that keeps you in the
poor.
position you're in.
and miserable. I would love to sit down and talk to. Not sit down and talk to them, but I'd like to have at a nice Christmas holiday party. I would like to have a small talk chat with someone who genuinely, non-ironically enjoys Hallmark movies, because I am really, really curious about what it is that the sheer shamelessness of being like, yeah, I'm gonna watch this, I'm gonna put it on. There's something going on there that I don't think is just. There's some more going on.
But here's my conspiracy theory, right? You want to hear my conspiracy theory?
Yeah, you've heard mine.
Right, okay. My conspiracy theory is, obviously I'm being a bit extreme here, but is that there is nobody who non-ironically watches Hallmark. So how you enjoy Hallmark movies, but how you enjoy Hallmark movies is by imagining that someone is non-ironically watching it, so that you can get the enjoyment of laughing at the Hallmark movie while still watching it. So in other words, it's like reality TV. Nobody watches the Kardashians unironically, but lots of people watch it believing there's an unironic person, and then that gives them the jouissance.
I would love to agree with you.
Yeah.
And I get what you're saying.
Yes,
And I think that's 100% definitely a large portion of these figures' audiences.
Then I have to be honest, is that the thought experiment is it doesn't matter if it's true or not. It's that most people, there are people who watch these shows.
That's a big part.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah. So of course,
But you're saying no one and nothing.
I know, but I'm saying that to make the point.
Yes,
I'm saying
okay.
that to go like whenever they make some really bad reality TV show, they often are doing it because they're aiming it at the ironic viewer, the viewer who watches it ironically. Because it's very hard to enjoy something like the Kardashians unironically, but there are people who I'm sure do. But even things like Duck Dynasty, I mean, from what I know, those guys, they're middle class. They grew their beards and pretended. So the whole thing is a show. They're ironic characters. Yeah. Like they're playing rednecks when they're not rednecks, precisely. So not even the people. And I know someone who there's a reality TV show in the UK called the Chelsea Girls, but it's But she was wanting to audition for it, because what they have is auditions for reality TV shows. So, as you know, but like these reality TV shows, they're all actors and people who are pretending.
Yeah,
so,
there's a reason they're all waiters or students.
Yeah.
Because they can't say actor, because they're all actors. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason I'm saying
actor's
is,
unlikable on reality television. You can't say that as a title.
Oh yeah. So the thing for me is for enlightened kind of Los Angeles or enlightened people, we still
Quotes
Yeah.
enlightened, right?
well, yeah, or kind of whatever. But
Woke.
Okay, well, yeah, well, yeah.
Just
You're putting words in my mouth. I'm very anti-woke.
I really wanted to see if you just went with that. Yeah. Oh, well, maybe not that one.
Yeah, no, just there's a lot of people who, just as I say, people believe they don't believe in Santa, but they do in a displaced way. Lots of people do the same with Hallmark movies. They actually do believe in them and enjoy them, but in a displaced way. So that's what I'm saying. It's like basically for educated people, displaced superstition is the dominant, I think, way of engaging with the world.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid and I'd aged out of Barney, and I remember watching Barney, and I knew I was too old to watch Barney, and I remember being like, this is a kid's show. Kids like this. Why do kids like this? I'm just gonna keep watching it. So I got to watch Barney.
Oh yes, so you could start watching it ironically, and that's how you.
I watched it.
Very good. See,
Oh,
that's
okay.
it.
Well, I don't really. I'm too old for this, but it's on. There's nothing else on.
Yeah. What's it like? Comic-Con is right across the road at the moment, and I bet you a lot of adults, kind of like the way that they can continue to do it is by pretending they're being ironic.
Yeah.
So so they can continue to.
Oh, you mean Comic-Con?
Yeah, Comic-Con. Yeah.
Well, that's a whole other. I mean, I think a lot of that is fantasy and escaping and being able to be not themselves.
Yeah.
Which is its own. Isn't that
Which is-
that would be
yeah.
its own kind of
So
quagmire?
we could do that on a different episode.
That's a
then.
whole
That'd be-
other-
Yeah, that's a whole other episode.
Because
Yeah,
we
that-
might have slightly different views. Because I think it's a nice thing for you put on the mask and you wear and you go around. I've come around a lot. I used to be very cynical about a lot of the cosplay stuff. I used to think I used to be very uppity and I used to be uppity about that in particular. But now I like to think that it's really a psychologically very healthy thing for people to do, to get out and just kind of role play a little bit.
I've got no opinion. I just think it's structurally interesting. Like for me, and even this idea of displaced belief, there's nothing good or bad about it. It's just
It's
a
interesting.
psychic structure. Like literally, people will think that we either believe or don't believe. Like us, we think it's like.
I know, isn't that weird?
Yeah. So whereas the idea of
Binary.
displaced belief is where your belief is located elsewhere.
I'm trying to find just a few more. Oh, also,
Yes.
Can I give you a few more history facts?
Oh,
here?
yeah, please.
This one I
Yeah.
really like. All right. So there's a few more similarities between Santa and Odin
Okay.
that I would like to explore. Santa, for example, has a fleet of elves. I don't know if you're familiar with this. in the
And
North
is that what you call a group of elves, a fleet?
No,
Oh, I like that.
but I like that a lot.
yeah.
Fleet
fleet
of
of
elves.
elves,
Ah,
yeah.
fleet. Odin
Yeah.
was the lord of Alfheim once, land of the elves. But these were different kind of elves. They were more like Legolas.
Like literally legless elves?
No, Legolas as in Lord of the Rings Legolas. Legolas.
Like with no
Legolas.
legs?
No, Legolas.
Without
from Lord of the
legs?
Rings. Have you seen Lord of the Rings? Have you seen the biggest movie franchise?
I think, yeah. I've seen definitely one or two of them.
The
yeah.
elf.
But they're not legless, they've got legs.
No, his name is Legolas.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
Well, tell me the guy's name on first base.
Who?
The guy playing first base.
Who is on first, Lou?
What are you asking me for?
Yeah.
We
So they've got no legs. Is that what you're
Yeah,
saying?
so they got no legs. That's what I'm saying. All right, so they both had elves. They both had, Odin rides an 8-legged horse. Santa rides 8 tiny reindeer. Pull them, and then, really, I just thought the elf thing was really interesting. But it was a different kind of elf because it was a badass elf that would, like, kill animals and use a bow and arrow. And not an elf that made toys and wanted to be a dentist deep down. So, anyway.
Very good.
Well-
Yeah, I like again coming back to the myth thing is like this. When you look at myths in America as well, like all these myths often start to come together in weird ways. So there's a myth, I think it's a North American myth, about twins can influence the weather. And so if there's bad weather, I'm not getting this completely right, but it's roughly right. I think maybe the firstborn twin is blamed and they have to repent
Nice.
or something like that, right? But also anybody with hair lip and also
Hair like a cleft palate?
hair lip, like a cleft in their lip. And then also anybody, I think, who's born feet first. So there's these three things that weirdly, whenever there's bad weather, the firstborn twin, person with a hair lip, and someone who's born feet first. They all have to repent because it's their fault. And at first, this is completely baffling. Like, why is this? But Levi Strauss does this analysis, and what you find, and it's very, very interesting. So twins. One of the myths is that this woman was deceived into having sex with a god.
Yep.
And one of the twins is from this devious god. The other is from their husband. And so there's these two twins, maybe one good and one bad. And then the hair lip comes from a really roundabout way that this hare once looked up this girl's skirt. And this girl was so annoyed at the hare for being so rude, hit the hare and split the hare's nose. So this hare's like got this split nose.
Hair.
Hair.
Like
as in like a rabbit, a hare,
Yeah.
Hare.
Another example of pagan traditions being incorporated into Christian holidays. You have the Easter.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. But the interesting thing is that the hare was almost cut in half, but not quite. She hit, but not. So the hair is almost like a bringing together of two opposites.
That's there's a Jewish myth that says that right before you're born, an angel takes its finger and just sort of presses your lips like that, and that's how you get that little indention.
Oh, no way.
So that's
nice.
the fingerprint of the angel right before your soul went into.
That's
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
I love that.
That's very good.
That's almost better than Santa. Like, just a little.
Better than being hit and nearly
And you're
splitting the person in
split
half.
this little bit.
That's where God hits you.
Yeah.
God hits you, and there's a little mark there. But what was interesting is then it starts to all make sense, and there's something about the feet first, but it all comes together, and these are, again, these different traditions are all dealing with opposites. And then the kid with the hair lip is they're not a twin and they're not one. They're divided and they're the same, and all of this kind of stuff. But it's all these weird connections. So yeah,
love it. Yeah. I'm reading a lot right now I just read about Dionysus. Dionysus.
Oh, yeah, the god of alcohol.
Yeah. And drugs. Nice. Did you know that when they did their rituals toward Dionysus, anthropologists and sociologists were confused about how because legend said, I guess, or history said that they would do these celebrations in honor of Dionysus, the god of wine, and they would honor him in the mysteries or whatever. And during this time, they would drink wine, but they would drink tiny little glasses of wine, and if they had 3 of them, they were at risk of either going crazy or literally dying. But the problem is that there was no method for fermentation back in the day, so people were super confused about how they were able to get this drunk. They would have to constantly be diluting the wine. They would dilute it over and over and over again, so that people could continue and have fun. And then they found by scraping the insides of the containers that were used for the wine that actually it wasn't really wine. They were doing it was a drug that came off the wheat, and it was basically the same chemical compound as LSD. And so all of these celebrations, these quote unquote wines, they were filled with spices and they were filled with all these things, but it was a psychotropic experience that they were undergoing. And so people would, and then so Dionysus was sort of the god that would bring all these women around, and he was a little effeminate and he was a little whatever, and then he would give them this stuff, and then they would just sort of go nutty.
Wow, very good. Yeah, because that Nietzsche does a lot on Apollo and Dionysus, and that's
Apollo's a really interesting one too.
Opposites. There's another two extremes, and the
half brother because and then Hermes being, I believe, and that's the one I'm reading about now. Hermes is the half brother, I think, of Apollo, and he stole 50 cattle from Apollo the day he was born, and then lied about it. And Apollo thought it was kind of funny, and then brought him to their father Zeus, and was like, "What are you gonna do with this kid?" And Hermes was like, "I didn't do it, man. I never did that. I don't know what you're talking about." And then Zeus again thought it was funny. He was like, "How bold of this guy to just straight up lie to me." Yeah. And then Hermes, someone who was never supposed to be in the sort of pantheon of gods, was able to be initiated into it.
Wow. There you go.
Because Hermes being the god of communication. So you see, it's fun.
It's fun.
I don't know anything about myth, but every time I read it, I'm like, I know nothing. And I'm like, who cares? I'm like, whatever. And then I read it and I'm like, this is fascinating. And every time it's like that. Like even the twin thing. It's like, these things still just really do capture your imagination. It's very cool.
And they're baffling at first. With myths, when you first encounter them, anything could happen. They're the weirdest thing. But then also anthropologists have shown how there's also these rules. So although you feel like anything can happen, there's a real similarity between myths right across the world. So it's like, so it's fascinating stuff.
Well, and that might bring us to a nice conclusion. I think Santa's a lovely myth, and I'm okay if it's completely been drip fed to me by Coca-Cola.
Yeah, and we believe because of Coca-Cola and the adverts, as we don't directly believe, but we displace our belief into the ideological mechanisms of advertisements and Hallmark.
Exactly. It's
Merry
beautiful.
Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Yeah, we'll end it there, I guess. But what do I got to do to get you to put some Christmas decorations up?
Oh yeah,
Why don't you just replace the coffee mug that's on your coffee maker that has skulls on it? Why don't you just get one with a Christmas tree on it?
Okay, yeah. Well, my mum every now and again buys me a little Christmas decoration, so I've got about 3 Christmas decorations somewhere. But that's even more. What's more depressing than no Christmas decorations is like 3 tiny Christmas decorations.
I disagree.
Okay, you think? Okay,
Yeah. Not when that has skulls on it.
Okay, yeah. I'll replace that. And my mum bought me a nice little Christmas decoration for this year, so I'll put that out. Yeah.
She knows what you need.
Yeah. All right.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.